The ship is sinking, yet we still press GO.
This isn't mere greed. It's a design that rewards your return. Managed hope rations the comeback, again and again.
Stopping isn't losing. It's your first strategy step.
Pause. Reroute. Build outside the loop. Choose people over the game today.
This is the brief on the Go Button Society. So let's talk about this really weird situation we're in, right? People, everyone from first-time investors to folks who've seen it all, keep making risky, high-debt moves like hitting a go button, even when it looks like the whole financial system is shaky. Why? It's something we all kind of need to understand. Okay, so what's really going on here? We've got 3 key things you need to grasp. First, there's this widespread denial happening, even though the danger signs are everywhere. Think about it. Global household debt is over $350 trillion. In places like South Korea, it's more than 105% of their entire economy's output. People keep pressing go because stopping feels like giving up, like admitting defeat. So the risky stuff just continues. Second, this isn't just about money. It's deeply psychological, driven by a huge gap between the rich and everyone else. The top 1%, they now hold almost half, 47%, of all the world's wealth. This creates this feeling of, despair. And the system kind of uses that, offering up bits of managed hope, small policy tweaks, promises about new tech that make people think, okay, maybe this time it'll be different, even when deep down they know it's risky. Finally, the way out involves understanding the system itself. See, the global economy is shifting towards more control, with big state projects like digital currencies. Nearly every central bank, 93% of them, is looking into this. Real change means getting smart about how the system works, and then choosing not to play along. Intentional non-participation. It's about building different ways to connect and exchange, outside of all this debt. Bottom line, pushing go harder won't fix this. The real move is choosing to stop and build something new.
Welcome back to the deep dive. If there's one thing that really defines the modern economy, it feels like this huge contradiction.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, all the data, everything we see, it's screaming danger, right?
Okay.
And what are people actually doing? They're hitting accelerate.
It's acceleration into the storm, exactly.
Yeah.
And we've been digging into a lot of source material that just cuts right through all that noise. And it paints this really vivid picture, this image that sort of sets the scene for us today. The ship is sinking, yet everyone is pressing go on their smartphones.
Yeah.
That's, wow. But it's not really an exaggeration, is it? It captures the moment, the crisis perfectly. We're way past the point where people can say they don't know the risks.
Right. The dangers, the systemic ones.
Yeah, it's all out there. The data's public. Anyone can find it. But the behavior,
Yeah.
it's like this compulsive thing, leaning into the risk, not pulling back.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. Our mission really is to help you, the listener, get past just the surface stuff. The constant buying, selling, speculating.
With noise.
Yeah, the noise. And really understand the fundamental essence underneath it all. What dictates these actions? This isn't just about like numbers on a screen. It's about the structure, the psychology that basically forces our hand, makes us press Drew even when everything inside says, whoa, stop.
We need to kind of pull back the curtain, look at the blueprint of this system, make the mechanics really clear, really understandable, no matter what your background is. It should make sense to everyone.
So we're looking at some pretty analytical stuff today, yeah. Global finance, societal trends, here.
Oh.
And we're focusing on, I'd say, 3 main things. First, the sheer mechanics of debt is just overwhelming. Second, how the system uses what the sources are calling managed hope, which is fascinating, managed hope.
And third, this bigger shift, where the economy maybe isn't just a market anymore, but more like a design structure.
Design structure.
Okay, yeah. And the goal here is just clarity, to give you the tools to see the whole playing field, not just the next move. All right, let's dive in. Section 1, the shock, the despair loop, and the danger data. Let's start with the scale. You really can't get the psychology, why people take these risks, unless you first just face the physical reality, the debt engine.
Okay, hit us with it. But let's try and make these numbers feel real, Globally, household debt, where are we at?
It surged past 350 trillion US dollars.
350 trillion.
Yeah. And when you say a number like that, 350 trillion, it's so huge it just floats away, right? It doesn't feel real.
Right, it's abstract. But try to think of it like this. That's debt held by ordinary people. Families, individuals, trying to keep up with inflation, trying to get by, maybe trying to get ahead.
Oh.
Okay.
So this
Not convinced.
mountain of debt, It's not just some abstract economic indicator. It's physical proof that a lot of the growth we see, it's basically built on borrowed time. Literally.
And it's not spread evenly, is it? Some places are feeling this way more intensely.
Definitely not. The pressure points are serious. Take South Korea, for example. Often held up as this miracle of development, right? Well, their household debt is now 1,927 trillion won. And the critical part? That's over 105% of their entire GDP.
Wow. So the debt held by families is more than the entire country produces in a year.
Exactly. And when you hit that kind of ratio, it's a sign of deep structural risk. It means just paying the interest on that debt becomes this huge burden on the whole economy. It's not just a few risky people anymore. It's baked into the system.
And the U.S. isn't immune either. We're seeing consumer debt.
Oh, yeah. Credit card debt specifically just passed $1.3 trillion first time ever.
And that's not mortgages, right? That's the high interest stuff.
That's the revolving door. High interest, often used just to cover gaps, smooth things out, keep spending going when income isn't keeping up. It's a sign of stress.
And then you have the real outliers, like Japan, their national debt.
Record levels,
Yeah.
264% of GDP. It's astronomical.
So these figures, they're not just numbers for economists to argue about.
Not at all. They're the evidence. They show that people and whole countries are leaning into financial instability. Why? Because maybe they feel like there's no other choice. It sets up this despair loop we're talking about.
Okay, so that's the grim reality check. The debt is massive. Now, connect that to the psychology. How does this fuel the GOBA button?
Well, this is where the calculation, or maybe the miscalculation, comes in. All this debt, these unsustainable numbers, it's proof that people are operating with this profound lack of caution, maybe even an intentional lack of caution.
Unintentional. How so?
Because they know the risk, intellectually at least. They know the game might be rigged or that the music's about to stop, but they keep playing. They keep betting. Why? Because the alternative, stepping away, not participating, somehow that feels even worse, like admitting defeat.
And you see this playing out everywhere, don't you? In specific markets,
Right.
like real estate.
Absolutely. Look at Seoul. Median apartment price doubled since 2020. Doubled.
That's insane growth. Leveraged growth, presumably.
Highly leveraged. And that kind of jump demands extreme confidence, right? Or maybe extreme desperation. For a lot of people, jumping in isn't about smart investing anymore. It's driven by this fear, this panic, that if they don't buy now, with whatever loan they can get, they're locked out forever.
The fear of missing out becomes the fear of being left behind permanently.
Precisely. And the stock market tells a similar story. Our sources say, 38% of U.S. investors are using leverage, borrowing money to trade?
Nearly 40%.
Think about that. When you borrow money to invest in things that can go down as well as up, you're not just hoping for a gain. You're making a huge gamble that the whole system holds together long enough for you to get out ahead.
It's a bet on momentum, not fundamental.
Often, yes. And maybe the most telling example, crypto.
Ah, yes.
The data here is just stark. Since 2021, over 70% of individual crypto investors globally are in the red. They've lost money.
The majority have lost money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yet, new accounts are still increasing year after year.
So that can't be rational risk assessment.
No way. It's compulsory participation. It's driven by this narrative, this hope, maybe this desperation, that this is the lottery ticket. This is the only way out of the slow grind.
Which brings us right back to that core idea connecting the debt numbers and the psychology, the
Right.
why we can't stop.
Exactly. The key insight here from the analysis we've seen is that people keep hitting Rago, even with all these flashing red lights, because stopping feels like admitting the game is over for you.
It's like conceding defeat within the system.
Yeah. It means acknowledging, okay, maybe that window of opportunity, that chance to get ahead, it's actually closed. It means accepting you might be stuck. And that forces you into this role. You become a speculator, often out of desperation, just to feel like you're still in the race.
Okay, but hang on. If the numbers, the reality scream stop, why doesn't the mind listen? There must be something else going on. What is the system doing or offering that keeps people distracted, keeps them pressing Rago?
Now we're getting deeper. That leads us straight into the traps of rationalization and how expectations are well managed. Right. Section 2, reflection, the trap of managed hope. Okay, so here we shift gears a bit. We move away from just the debt figures and look at the social function of the economy today. The analysis we're drawing from suggests that modern capitalism, it's evolved. It's not just about growth or making stuff anymore.
What is it about then?
It's become, maybe above all else, a device that controls hope.
Whoa, okay. A device that controls hope. That sounds pretty cynical.
It does.
I mean,
Yeah.
couldn't you argue the system still offers real opportunities? Maybe unevenly, sure, but people invest because they believe in innovation, new ideas, not just because they're being controlled.
That's a really fair point, and it gets right to the core of it. Of course, real innovation happens. But the function of the system, especially for the vast majority of people, seems to have changed. And it's changed precisely because of the sheer scale of inequality we now have.
So the inequality is the key driver here.
It's the context. When the playing field gets so tilted, so impossibly steep for most people, the system itself has to deploy these mechanisms. Ways to manage hope. Otherwise, you'd see mass withdrawal. People would just check out. Or worse, from the system's perspective.
So the managed hope is basically a control mechanism to keep people participating in a game they sense is rigged against them?
That's the argument, yeah. Let's put some numbers on that inequality context. Since the 1970s, roughly, wealth has become incredibly concentrated.
How concentrated?
The top 1% of income earners globally. They now hold something like 47% of total global assets.
47%. Almost half the world's wealth in the hands of 1%.
Yeah, think about that. A population roughly the size of, I don't know, a few big cities holds almost half of everything.
Okay. And what about everyone else, the bottom half?
The bottom 50%. Over that same period, decades, they've seen basically stagnant real income. Their wages haven't kept pace with the cost of living, let alone asset growth.
So the gap is widening dramatically.
Hugely. The specific metric cited is the income gap between that top 1% and the bottom 50%. It's now 81 times. 81.
Wow.
So when you're an ordinary person working hard and you realize your efforts just aren't moving the needle for you, while asset owners are seeing exponential gains,
Yeah.
that creates a kind of existential despair, doesn't it? The landscape just feels overwhelming.
And that's the feeling that triggers the mental defenses, the reason people don't just give up.
Exactly. That realization, my effort alone isn't enough, is incredibly painful. So the mind steps in. This is where cognitive dissonance becomes absolutely critical to understand.
Right. Cognitive dissonance. Explain that in this context. It's basically the mental stress you feel when you hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. Like belief A, the system is rigged against me, the risks are huge, I probably won't make it. And back okay, the rational assessment.
Right.
And belief B, but I have to participate. I have to take on debt, maybe leverage up, speculate, because that's my only shot at maybe, just maybe, getting ahead or not falling further behind. You can't live with both, so.
So the mind does gymnastics. It downplays belief A, the painful reality, and latches onto belief B, the one that offers a sliver of hope, however irrational. It chooses to believe the falsehoods, the self-deceptions, because the alternative, accepting permanent exclusion, is just too brutal.
The mind protects itself.
It protects itself. And the sources we looked at are brilliant on this. They detail these common self-deceptions you hear everywhere.
Look, give us some examples.
Okay, the internal monologue, right? Okay, things are bad now, but this has to be the low point, just got to hold on. Or
It's just a temporary dip, a short-term correction. The rebound is coming.
yeah, exactly.
Eh.
Or the big one, the really dangerous one.
Yeah.
This time it's different. This cycle isn't like the past ones,
Yeah.
right? Because my situation, my chosen asset, is unique.
But these aren't really sober economic forecasts, are they? They're psychological shields. So what stop people from just quitting the game entirely?
Okay, so the mind builds these defenses. How does the system, capital, as the sources put it, use this? It doesn't need to tear down the wall. It just needs to exploit the cracks. This is where managed hope comes in as the system's weapon. Capital, the system, it doesn't offer genuine, sustainable hope for the majority. Instead, it strategically distributes controlled doses of hope.
Like little breadcrumbs.
Exactly like breadcrumbs. Small, maybe achievable lures. Just enough to keep people hooked, keep them in that risk-taking loop, just enough so you never quite give up hope entirely and withdraw your participation, your money, your data.
And this isn't accidental. It's managed, you said. How? Through signaling.
Yeah, very sophisticated signaling. Let's break down the players. First, government. They know being too heavy-handed looks bad, like state control. So the manipulation is subtle.
How does government manage hope subtly?
Through things like policy tweaks, regulatory sandboxes. They don't need to promise another massive, unbelievable boom. They just need to, say, announce a small tax break for first-time homebuyers in one specific area. Or tinker with zoning laws slightly.
Just enough to send a signal. Just enough to signal. See? New opportunities are coming, just around the corner. Don't give up on the housing market yet. It keeps that speculative hope alive just enough. Okay, that's government. What about big tech? They're huge players in shaping our desires.
Oh, they're maybe the most visible purveyors of hope today, constantly with pushing the next big narrative. AI, the metaverse, Web3, tokenization, whatever it is this week.
Your next revolution you absolutely cannot miss. Right. It's the ultimate FOMO machine. The underlying message is always, hey, your problem isn't the rig system. Your problem is you missed the last big wave and you haven't bought your ticket for the next one yet. So it's a constant distraction. Keeps you focused on the shiny new thing, not the stagnant wage. It's incredibly effective. And then you have the financial system itself, the banks, the central banks. They control the environment, mainly by fiddling with the biggest lever, interest rates.
Right.
Raise them, lower them.
Exactly. Raise them just enough to cause some pain, make people pause, maybe signal, okay, time for a bit of caution, a little reality check.
Forces a bit of a reckoning.
Yeah. But then lower them just enough to signal, okay, the coast is clear, money's cheap again, liquidity's flowing, quick, press go before you miss the boat again. They basically control the speed of the treadmill we're all running on.
Wow. So putting it all together, the government nudges, tech sells the dream, finance controls the flow.
And the result is this illusion of choice. People feel like they're making independent decisions. Should I invest in stock A or crypto B? But the argument is the system, through this managed hope and managed desperation, is actually steering those choices.
You're not really driving, you're being directed.
You're a participant, maybe even a willing participant out of necessity, in a system designed to keep you engaged, keep you borrowing, keep you click and go.
Okay, that's a heavy realization. If hope itself is managed and our choices are directed, where does that leave us?
That leads us to section 3, right? Understanding the structure itself.
Precisely. We've seen the debt, the desperation, the psychological trick of managed hope. Now we get to the absolute core idea, the thing you really need to grasp for. Let's call it structural literacy. Which is?
The economy isn't just a market anymore. Not in the old sense. It's becoming, or maybe has become, a designed structure.
Okay, unpack that. Market versus design structure. What's the difference?
Well, a market, theoretically, has some natural forces, supply and demand, maybe some inefficiencies you could spot and use to your advantage. It's a bit wild. It'd be unpredictable.
Right.
A design structure, though, it's different. It's built intentionally, with specific control points, surveillance built in, feedback loops designed to smooth out those unpredictable bits, to eliminate inefficiency.
And by eliminating inefficiency, you also eliminate...
Well, arguably, you eliminate genuine economic freedom. Real choice, especially the choice not to participate.
Right.
We're talking about intentional non-participation. We first have to see the structure we'd be stepping away from.
And this isn't just theory. The structure is being built now.
It's not theory, it's operational, it's accelerating. And the key is global digitalization. It's merging the physical world with a digital layer of control.
Okay, give us the evidence. What does this blueprint look like in practice? Let's start with the foundation. Money itself. The move towards central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, we hear a lot about those.
And for good reason. The scale is massive. As of 2024, something like 93% of the world's central banks are actively working on CBDC projects. 93%.
Wow. So it's practically global.
It's nearly universal. And you have to understand, this isn't just like getting a new payment app on your phone. It's fundamental. It potentially allows the issuer, the central bank, to see and maybe even control every single transaction, where every digital dollar or euro or yuan goes.
Total visibility.
And potential control.
Oh, okay.
What else?
Right. Well, CBDCs are most powerful when they're linked to who you are. So the other half of this structure is digital identity.
Merging your money with your ID?
Exactly. Creating one single control plane. Look at the EU. They're aiming to integrate digital IDs with all public services starting in 2026.
All public services. So taxes, healthcare, education records, benefits. Potentially everything linked to a single verifiable digital you. And Korea's on a similar path, aiming for a nationwide digital ID system by 2027.
And the selling point is always convenience, efficiency.
Of course. But the underlying architecture is about interoperability, data consolidation, and ultimately control over who gets to participate and how.
And the really critical implication here, the thing that makes it a designed structure, is programmability, right?
That's the end game. If your identity is digital and your money is digital and linked to that identity, then the structure itself gains the ability to set rules, to program how, when, and where you can use your resources.
So it's not just tracking, it's potentially steering.
Potentially, yes. Think about it. Money, identity, your movements, what you buy, where you work, your health status. The vision is for all these things to operate within this single, integrated, data-heavy structure, leaving very few gaps.
Or maybe no gaps, no outside, no real way to opt out if your entire life access to work, healthcare, money runs through that digital infrastructure. Okay, so this brings us back to the go button. If this structure is being built, how does it reinforce that psychological pressure to participate, to keep hitting go? Trace that loop for us.
Right, the control loop within the design structure. It's a closed circle. It starts, according to this analysis, at the top, with money.
Meaning the wealthy, the powerful.
Yes, those who hold the wealth, but also, crucially, those who design the architecture of the system. They use their position to design desire.
Design desire.
Through marketing, obviously,
Yeah.
but also through funding certain technologies, pushing certain cultural narratives, shaping policy. They effectively define what counts as a good life, an aspirational life within the system. Status, the newest gadget, quick wealth through speculation.
Okay, so money designs desire. Then what?
Then that desire, which feels personal but is actually sort of pre-programmed, drives choice.
The choices people make every day.
Yeah, the choice to take out the loan, to buy the stock on leverage, to sign up for the digital ID because it promises convenience. These choices feel free, but they're largely just fulfilling the desires the structure fed you in the first place.
Okay. Money designs desire. Desire drives choice. And the final step.
That collective choice, millions of people hitting you go, reinforces and strengthens the system. Every time you participate, especially using the system's tools like debt or digital platforms, you feed it. You give it more data, more power, more legitimacy. You keep the gears turning.
It's a self-reinforcing loop. Completely. And this is the big realization we're aiming for, the core of structural literacy. Real choice isn't deciding between options the structure gives you. Buying stock A or B isn't the fundamental choice. What is then?
The real choice, the radical act, is learning to read the structure itself, to see it for what it is, this sophisticated machine of control, and then, crucially, to start figuring out how to live, how to build a life outside its direct lines of influence.
So understanding the design is the first step to finding the exit ramp.
Or maybe building a new road entirely. That structural literacy, just seeing the blueprint, that's where agency begins.
Okay.
Yeah. Which leads us perfectly into the final section. Section 4. Mission, the strategy of intentional stop. Right, so if the system's prime directive is press go, keep going faster, then our mission, our strategy has to be the opposite. It's the intentional S-stop-P.
And the crucial reframing here is that stopping isn't failure.
Absolutely not. In this context, stopping the go button isn't giving up. It's not defeat. It's actually the first move in a strategy for redesign. It's a conscious, calculated withdrawal of your energy, your resources from a system you recognize as failing or is designed against you.
And this isn't just wishful thinking. There's historical precedent for this kind of stop strategy working.
Oh, definitely. History is full of examples where deliberate withdrawal, focused non-participation by groups of people became the catalyst for real structural change. We need to see that the stop button has power.
Okay, like when?
Well, think back to the 1930s, the Great Depression, the massive financial crash.
Yeah.
Yes, it led to big government programs like the New Deal. But importantly, at the grassroots level, it also triggered this explosion of community-based economic movements. People stopped trusting the big centralized banks that had failed them.
And they built alternatives.
Exactly. Local credit unions popped up, mutual aid societies formed, bartering networks thrived. They deliberately pulled their trust and resources out of Wall Street and invested them in building smaller, local, resilient microeconomies they could actually rely on.
So a deliberate stop on the mainstream system and a start on something new.
Precisely. Or jump forward to the 1970s oil crisis. Remember the gas lines?
Vividly. Well, I've seen pictures.
Right. When that single globalized system for a critical resource, oil, suddenly seized up, what happened? It forced people to think differently. It spurred the creation of decentralized energy cooperatives, experiments in local energy production, a push for efficiency. People effectively hit STOP on their total reliance on big oil and started building smaller, more independent alternatives.
Necessity breeding innovation outside the old structure. And even look at something very recent, the 2020 pandemic. For many, that was an enforced stop, wasn't it? Global supply chains broke down, people were isolated. Yeah, everything just paused.
And in that pause, what did we see? a huge global surge in local action. Regional exchange networks, neighbors setting up food-sharing schemes, community gardens, renewed interest in local production. People instinctively pulled back from the fragile, distant global system and reinvested their energy and trust in tangible local connections. Okay. So the pattern is, when the big system falters or reveals its flaws, the effective response isn't just to double down within it, but to deliberately disengage and build something else. That's the key takeaway. You can't really outsmart the managed hope machine by playing its game better. You can't outleverage the house forever. The more effective strategy is to start designing your life outside that structure through calculated withdrawal and focused community-based rebuilding.
And the source material gives concrete ideas on how to do this.
Yes, it frames it as a dual strategy. First, prioritize building community networks, not accumulating more debt.
Why that contrast, community versus debt?
Because debt is the structure's main hook. It forces your participation, keeps you dependent. Community, strong local networks, that's the foundation for decentralized resilience. When you hit a rough patch, the system offers you a loan with strings attached. A strong community might offer a helping hand, shared resources, mutual support. No strings, just connection.
Okay, build community, not debt. What's the second part?
Create structures of exchange and self-sufficiency, not just consumption.
Okay, less buying more.
More, creating, sharing, trading, fixing, growing. Consumption is what fuels the main system. It validates its desires, generates its profits, feeds its data loop. When you shift towards exchange trading skills, bartering goods, or towards self-sufficiency growing food, repairing things, you pull your energy and resources out of that core loop. You put it into local, resilient networks that can operate outside the main digital control grid.
But this requires that first step we talked about, structural literacy.
Absolutely. You have to be able to read the system first, see where it's demanding your participation, where it's trying to hook you with debt or desire. And then you can consciously plan your points of intentional non-participation.
Yeah.
That act of seeing, then choosing to disengage strategically, that's real agency today.
All right, let's make this really practical. This is the homework, the routine for you, the listener. 3 concrete actions you can start taking based on this analysis to implement this stop strategy. Okay, action number 1, questioning consumption radically. Before you buy something, anything non-essential, a subscription, a gadget, whatever, force yourself to ask, does this decision strengthen the current structure or does it help create an alternative? How do you tell the difference?
Well, does it require you to go into debt? Does it lock you further into a big tech ecosystem? Does it primarily fulfill a desire planted by advertising? If yes, it probably strengthens the current structure.
And the alternative.
Does it support a local maker, an independent business? Does it reduce your reliance on long, fragile supply chains? Does it build a relationship, maybe through barter or sharing instead of just a transaction? That helps create an alternative. It's a simple question, but asking it consistently changes your perspective.
Okay, question consumption. What's step 2?
Step 2 addresses that psychological urgency. The system cultivates that feeling of, I need it now, the FOMO. You need to deliberately create an intentional void.
An intentional void, like a pause.
Exactly. We're conditioned for instant gratification. Click, buy, delivered tomorrow. The source material specifically suggests implementing a strategic delay. For example, a mandatory 48-hour waiting period on any planned non-essential purchase.
48 hours. Why?
That simple pause does 2 things. 1, it breaks the emotional impulsive cycle driven by managed hope or fear. 2, it gives your rational brain, the part that understands the structure, time to actually weigh the decision using the question from step 1. Does this really align with building an alternative?
Okay, question consumption, create intentional delays. What's the third and maybe most important step?
The third step is experimental union. This is crucial. You can't really do this alone.
Find your tribe.
Basically, yes. Find other people who also see the structure, who share this perspective, and then this is key to commit to actually doing things together. Initiate destructural economic experiments.
Okay, destructural economic experiments. What does that look like in practice?
It'd have to be concrete, like starting a local time bank where people trade skills based on hours, not dollars, or creating a tool library for sharing instead of everyone buying their own, or setting up a neighborhood food co-op or seed exchange to build local food security outside the big supermarkets. Maybe even a mutual education network, sharing knowledge freely.
So tangible projects that build self-sufficiency and community outside the main system's control.
Exactly. These are practical, resilient structures you build together, operating on different principles of cooperation, mutual aid, localism, entirely outside that coming digital ID CBDC control plane. That's where the real power lies.
Wow. Okay. That gives us a lot to think about and act on. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
So this deep dive, it really drove home that this collective frenzy, everyone hitting the go button, it's not just greed, is it? It's a symptom, a signal of desperation maybe, and definitely of being caught in a system of managed control.
It shows we're at this point where understanding the structure, having that literacy, isn't optional anymore. It's essential for navigating what's coming. And the closing message we pulled from the analysis, it's stark, but it's also kind of empowering, isn't it? The system we're in, it shouts to you, keep going, earn more, get more debt, don't fall behind.
Yeah.
But for those who've learned to read the blueprint, who see the structure, the truth whispers something very different.
This is a whisper.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Turn around. Look closely at this failing design and start building a new order.
It feels like we're in this moment where the simple act of standing still, of choosing not to participate in certain ways, that itself becomes a powerful, almost revolutionary act. It absolutely is. It's an act of agency. And it's something anyone can grasp. Even kids can understand this basic idea, where you put your energy, your attention, your resources. That's what builds the future. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Think about this. Throughout history, civilizations, the really lasting, meaningful ones, they weren't primarily built by the people who just blindly pressed gaga, who just accelerated down the existing path, especially when that path was crumbling. Who were they built by?
They were built by those who had the courage to press S to OP, the ones who stepped back, assessed the flawed structure, saw what needed to change, and then deliberately carved a new path forward. Your single act of saying stop, of choosing differently, especially when you link it up with others doing the same, it can actually disrupt the flow, it can change things.
So the button you choose today, Kiro, continuing in the current flow, or S stop P, starting to build an alternative. It's not just about your finances.
No, it's a foundational choice. It helps determine what kind of economic reality, what kind of world the next generation inherits. That's the power you actually hold.
A powerful thought indeed.
Until next time, keep reading the structure, see the blueprint, and choose wisely.
고버튼 사회의 핵심 요약입니다. 아니 왜 우리는 위험 신호가 뻔히 보이는데도 멈추질 못하고 계속 고 버튼을 누를까요? 이 자료가 바로 그 이유, 그리고 우리를 그렇게 만드는 시스템 구조를 파헤쳐 봅니다. 첫째, 고 버튼 현상인데요. 한국 가계부채가 1,900조 원을 넘고 미국 신용카드 빚은 사상 최고치래요. 이런 명백한 경고 등에도 불구하고 투자를 멈추질 못하는 거죠. 왜냐면 멈추면 뭔가 지는 거다, 패배자다 이렇게 느끼기 때문이라는 거예요. 둘째는요, 통제된 희망이랑 우리의 인지 부조화 때문이래요. 소득 격차가 엄청 심각하잖아요. 이런 힘든 현실 속에서도 정부 정책이나 신기술 발표, 금융시장 조절 같은 걸로 시스템이 슬쩍 이번엔 다를 걸, 기회가 온다 이런 희망을 계속 준다는 거죠. 결국 우리가 현실을 좀 외면하게 만드는 그런 심리 게임 같은 거예요. 마지막으로 진짜 문제는 개개인이 아니라 시스템 구조 그 자체에 있고, 그래서 멈추는 게 중요 전략이 될 수 있다는 겁니다. 우리의 돈, CBDC 같은 거요, 신원, 디지털 아이디, 소비 같은 모든 게 데이터화돼서 통제되는 사회로 가고 있다는 거죠. 그래서 가끔은 일부러 참여 안 하기, 즉 멈춤을 선택하는 게 새로운 길을 찾는 시작일 수 있다는 거예요. 결론적으로 이 사회는 빛과 잘 만들어진 희망으로 우리한테 계속 고를 외치도록 설계되어 있다는 거죠. 하지만 진짜 변화는 이 시스템의 본질을 딱 꿰뚫어보고 용기 있게 멈춤을 선택하는 데서 시작된다는 겁니다. 시스템의 작동 방식을 아는 것이 변화의 시작입니다.
배가 기울고 있습니다. 그런데 사람들은 여전히 스마트폰만 보고 있어요. 그 고 버튼인가요? 그걸 누르고 있고요. 이 장면 좀 뭔가 익숙하면서도 섬뜩한 느낌 들지 않으세요? 오늘 저희가 좀 깊이 파고들 주제가 바로 이겁니다. 고 버튼 사회 현상, 왜 우리는 눈앞에 위험 신호가 뻔히 보이는데도 이걸 멈추지 못하고 계속 같은 행동을 반복하는 걸까요? 오늘 청취자 여러분께서 보내주신 자료가 있어요. 고 버튼 사회, 침몰과 새로운 질서라는 제목의 발췌본인데, 이걸 바탕으로 이 현상의 뿌리, 또 그 뒤에 숨어있는 시스템의 작동 원리, 이런 것들을 좀 함께 탐구해보려고 합니다. 내 복잡한 세상의 본질을 좀 꿰뚫어 보고 싶다. 이런 여러분의 지적인 갈증 해소에 좀 초점을 맞춰서 핵심을 명쾌하게 짚어드리도록 노력하겠습니다.
네, 오늘 저희가 들여다볼 자료가 상당히 날카롭습니다. 뭐 천문학적인 부채 증가라던가 아니면 극심한 불평등 같은 이런 심각한 경제 현실을 그냥 진단만 하는 게 아니고요. 왜 그런 현상이 벌어지는지 그 심리적인 배경, 또 구조적인 배경까지 아주 깊숙이 파고들고 있죠. 그래서 이번 논의를 통해서 저희는 이 자료가 던지는 여러 질문들, 특히 사람들이 왜 명백한 위험 앞에서도 어쩔 수 없이 이 고 버튼을 누르게 되는지 그 근본적인 이유를 이해하는 데 좀 집중을 해볼까 합니다. 단순히 현상을 나열하는 걸 넘어서요. 사회 시스템이 어떻게 우리의 선택에 영향을 미치고 있는지 그 작동 방식을 좀 이해함으로써 표면적인 뉴스 너머의 진짜 의미를 파악하는 데 도움을 드리는 것. 네, 그게 저희 목표입니다.
네, 그 왜라는 질문 정말 궁금해지는데요. 사람들이 알면서도 왜 멈추지 못하는가? 자료의 첫 번째 분석, 쇼크. 그러니까 충격적인 현실 진단부터 한번 같이 살펴보죠. 와, 정말 입이 떡 벌어지는 숫자들로 시작하더라고요. 전 세계 가계부채 총액이 350조 달러를 넘었고요. 한국만 해도 가계부채가 1927조 원. 이게 GDP 대비 105%를 넘었다고 하죠. 미국에서는 또 신용카드 부채가 사상 처음으로 1조 3천억 달러를 돌파했고, 일본은 와, 국가 부채 비율이 무려 264%, 역대 최고치라고 합니다. 이게 뭐 그냥 통계 수치가 아니잖아요. 자료에서 지적하듯이 많은 사람들이 이 게임은 이미 끝났다. 이걸 뭐 어렴풋이 알면서도 계속해서 더 큰 위험을 감수하는 현실, 이걸 아주 적나라하게 보여주는 지표인 것 같아요.
맞습니다. 여기서 이제 자료가 던지는 핵심 질문이 바로 왜 멈추지 못하는가 이거죠. 그리고 그 답을 아주 명확하게 제시하고 있어요. 핵심 통찰 중 하나는 이겁니다. 멈춘다는 행위 자체가 그게 곧 자신의 패배를 스스로 인정하는 것처럼 느껴지기 때문이라는 거죠.
멈추면 패배한다.
네, 구체적인 예를 좀 들어볼까요? 자료에 따르면 2020년 이후에 서울 아파트 중위 가격이 2배 이상 치솟았다고 합니다. 많은 사람들이 지금 아니면 영원히 기회가 없을지 모른다 이런 불안감 때문에 무리하게 빚을 내서 집을 샀죠. 또 미국 주식 투자자의 38%는 빚, 그러니까 레버리지죠. 쉽게 말하면 빌린 돈으로 투자 규모를 키우는 방식인데 이걸 사용해서 투자하고 있다고 하고요. 암호화폐 시장은 더 극적입니다. 2021년 이후에 개인 투자자의 70% 이상이 손실을 경험했는데도 신규 계좌 개설은 오히려 늘어나는 추세라고 해요. 그러니까 모두가 이 판이 얼마나 위태로운지 알지만 아무도 여기서 쉽게 발을 빼지 못하는 이 역설적인 상황. 이것이 우리가 먼저 정면으로 마주해야 할 좀 충격적인 현실이라는 겁니다.
듣고 보니 정말 이상한 상황이네요. 위험한 걸 뻔히 알면서도 계속 달려드는 뭐랄까 불나방 같은 모습이라고 해야 할까요? 이런 숫자들을 들으면 정말 숨이 턱 막히는 기분인데요. 제 주변에서도 비슷한 걱정들을 많이 하시거든요. 근데 이게 단순하게 개인의 탐욕 문제나 뭐 판단 착오 이런 문제가 아니라 뭔가 더 근본적인 이유가 있는 것 같습니다. 그래서 자료는 다음 단계 reflection, 그러니까 성찰 파트에서 이 현상의 심리적인 원인, 또 시스템적인 원인을 더 깊이 파고드는군요.
그렇습니다. 바로 그 지점에서 자료는 인지부조화라는 심리학 개념을 가져옵니다. 현실이 너무 고통스럽고 불안하니까 그 현실을 있는 그대로 받아들이기보다는 아니야, 나는 합리적인 선택을 하고 있어. 곧 상황이 반전될 거야. 와 같이 스스로를 좀 안심시키는 그런 믿음을 만들어낸다는 거죠.
네.
현실하고 믿음 사이에 그 불편한 간극을 메우려는 일종의 심리적 방어 기제인 셈입니다.
현실을 외면하고 싶은 마음은 뭐 이해가 가는데 그게 어떻게 시스템이랑 연결이 된다는 거죠?
자료의 핵심 진단 중 하나가 바로 이 지점인데요. 현대사회는 단순히 경제 시스템이 아니라 사람들의 희망 자체를 아주 교묘하게 관리하고 통제함으로써 유지된다는 겁니다. 이게 바로 자료가 제시하는 통제된 희망, 매니지드 호비라는 개념이에요.
통제된 희망?
네. 예를 들어 정부는 부동산 가격이 폭락하지 않도록 아주 미세하게 조정을 하면서 아직 내 집 마련의 기회는 남아있다? 이런 신호를 계속 보내는 거죠. 또 빅테크 기업들은 끊임없이 새로운 기술, 새로운 플랫폼을 선보이면서 이 흐름을 놓치면 당신은 뒤처진다. 이런 불안감을 계속 자극하고요. 금융 시스템 역시 그렇죠. 뭐 금리 조정을 통해서 대출을 부추기거나 투자를 유도하면서 사람들의 기대 심리를 계속 조정합니다. 결국에는 사람들은 스스로 자유롭게 선택한다고 믿지만 실제로는 시스템이 설계한 그 희망의 궤도 안에서 움직이도록 유도되고 있다. 이런 분석인 거죠.
듣고 보니까 시스템이 개인의 심리, 심지어 희망까지 이용한다. 상당히 좀 냉소적인 분석으로 들릴 수도 있겠네요. 혹시 자료는 이런 분석에 대해서 뭐 다른 관점이라든가 아니면 이런 시스템 통제가 가진 한계점 이런 것도 좀 언급하고 있나요?
아, 좋은 질문입니다. 자료도 이런 분석이 좀 냉소적으로 보일 수 있다는 점은 인정을 해요. 그러면서도 이게 현실을 직시하는 데 꼭 필요하다고 강조를 하죠. 다만 시스템의 통제가 완벽하지는 않다. 그리고 그 틈새를 파고들 여지도 분명히 있다는 점도 함께 지적을 합니다. 중요한 건 표면적인 어떤 경제 뉴스나 정부 발표 너머에서 실제로 어떤 메커니즘이 작동하고 있는지를 파악하려는 그 노력 자체가 중요하다는 거죠. 자료의 핵심 주장처럼 사람들은 선택하는 게 아니라 선택당하고 있다는 관점에서 세상을 바라볼 때 비로소 다른 가능성이 보이기 시작한다는 겁니다.
시스템에 의해서 선택당하고 있다는 관점. 네, 계속 곱씹어 보게 되네요. 그렇다면 이 거대한 시스템, 이 설계된 구조를 우리가 어떻게 좀 더 구체적으로 파악할 수 있을까요? 자료의 세 번째 섹션, resolve, 그러니까 구조를 파악하고 결의를 다지는 부분에서 그 실마리를 좀 찾을 수 있을 것 같은데요. 여기서 자료는 경제를 단순히 보이지 않는 시장의 힘, 여기에 의해서 움직이는 게 아니라 누군가에 의해서 상당히 의도적으로 설계된 구조울로 봐야 한다고 주장해요. 그 근거로 몇 가지 흥미로운 흐름들을 제시하는데요.
네, 몇 가지 좀 주목할 만한 전지구적인 움직임을 예로 들고 있습니다. 2024년 기준으로 전 세계 중앙은행의 93%가 거의 대부분이죠. 이 은행들이 CBDC, 즉 중앙은행 디지털 화폐 도입을 연구하거나 시범 운영 중이라는 사실입니다. 또 유럽연합 EU 같은 경우는 2026년부터 디지털 신분증, 디지털 아이디를 공공 서비스는 물론이고 민간 서비스 이용과 결합할 계획이고요. 한국 역시 2027년까지 전 국민을 대상으로 하는 디지털 신분증 체계로 전환하는 것을 목표로 하고 있다고 합니다.
잠깐만요. 중앙은행 디지털 화폐나 뭐 디지털 신분증 이게 그냥 기술 발전의 자연스러운 결과가 아니라 설계된 구조랑 관련이 있다는 말씀이신가요? 이게 구체적으로 어떻게 개인의 선택을 제한하거나 시스템의 통제를 강화하는 도구가 될 수 있다는 건지 자료에서 좀 더 설명하는 부분이 있나요? 이게 일반 시민들한테는 어떤 의미를 갖는 걸까요?
바로 그 점을 자료가 아주 날카롭게 지적합니다. 예를 들어서 중앙은행 디지털 화폐는 이론적으로 모든 거래 기록이 중앙 서버에 남게 될 가능성이 있죠. 이렇게 되면 정부나 중앙은행이 개인의 소비 패턴을 실시간으로 파악하고 특정 상품의 구매를 제한한다거나 세금 징수를 훨씬 용이하게 할 수 있는 그런 기술적 기반이 마련될 수 있다는 거죠. 디지털 신분증 역시 마찬가지입니다. 우리의 신원 정보뿐만 아니라 자격증, 의료 기록, 이동 경로 등 점점 더 많은 개인 정보가 하나의 디지털 아이디에 통합될 수 있습니다. 이것이 특정 서비스 접근권이나 어떤 사회적 신용 점수 이런 것과 연동될 경우에는 시스템이 개인의 행동을 원하는 방향으로 유도하거나 통제할 힘이 훨씬 더 강력해질 수 있다. 이런 가능성을 자료는 제기하는 겁니다. 즉 돈, 신원, 이동, 소비, 노동, 삶의 거의 모든 영역이 데이터화되어서 하나의 거대한 시스템 안에서 관리되고 통제될 수 있는 기반이 마련되고 있다. 이런 분석인 거죠.
상상만 해도 좀 답답하고 무섭게 느껴지는데요. 모든 것이 기록되고 통제될 수 있다니.
네. 그래서 자료는 이 구조가 유지되는 핵심적인 연결고리를 이렇게 설명합니다. 결국 돈, 즉 자본을 쥔 세력이 사람들의 욕망을 교묘하게 설계하고 그 설계된 욕망이 사람들의 선택, 그러니까 고 버튼을 누르기를 움직이며 결국 그 수많은 개인의 선택들이 모여서 이 거대한 시스템을 유지시킨다는 것이죠. 아주 단순화하면 시스템은 우리가 무엇을 원하게 만들지를 디자인하고 우리는 그 원하는 것을 얻기 위해서 시스템이 정한 규칙 안에서 열심히 고 버튼을 누른다는 겁니다. 따라서 자료가 말하는 진짜 선택이란 건 단순히 어떤 주식이나 코인을 사거나 어느 지역의 아파트 계약서에 서명하는 그런 행위가 아니라고 강조해요. 진짜 선택은 이 시스템에 보이지 않는 설계도를 읽어내고 그 구조의 영향력에서 벗어나서 주체적으로 살아가는 방법을 모색하는 것, 그것이라고 말합니다.
구조를 읽고 그 바깥에서 사는 법을 익힌다. 구체적으로 어떤 방법들을 좀 제시하나요?
몇 가지 실천적인 방향을 제안하는데요. 예를 들어서 끊임없이 더 많은 빚에 의존하는 대신에 서로 돕고 의지할 수 있는 어떤 공동체적인 관계망을 좀 단단하게 구축하는 것. 또 끝없는 소비를 통해서 욕망을 충족하려고 하기보다는 필요한 것을 이웃과 교환하거나 스스로 만들어 쓰는 어떤 자급자족의 요소를 삶에 도입하는 것. 그리고 무엇보다 중요한 건 시스템이 우리에게 강요하는 속도와 방향을 무작정 따라가기보다 때로는 의도적으로 참여하지 않음으로써 거리를 두는 그런 전략적인 멈춤을 실천하라는 겁니다. 이 지점에서 아주 중요한 관점의 전환이 일어나는데요. 바로 멈춤이라는 것이 패배나 낙오가 아니라 이 구조를 제대로 인식하고 재설계하기 위한 첫 번째 능동적인 전략이 될 수 있다. 이런 통찰입니다.
와, 멈춤이 패배가 아니라 전략이라니 이건 정말 생각의 틀을 깨는 발상인데요. 보통 우리는 그냥 무조건 계속 앞만 보고 달려가야 한다, 멈추면 뒤처진다 이렇게만 생각하잖아요. 청취자분들도 이 부분은 꽤 신선하고 어쩌면 좀 놀랍게 느껴지실 수도 있을 것 같습니다. 그렇다면 이 멈춤의 힘을 어떻게 현실에서 발휘할 수 있을까요?
바로 그 질문에 답하기 위해서 자료는 마지막 섹션인 미션, 즉 우리의 사명 또는 실천 과제로 넘어갑니다. 다시 한번 처음의 그 이미지, 기울어가는 배 위에서 불안하게 고 버튼을 누르는 사람들, 이걸 떠올려 보죠. 하지만 자료는 여기서 아주 강력한 반론을 제시합니다. 인류 역사의 중요한 전환점을 만든 사람들은 무작정 고를 외친 사람들이 아니라 오히려 적절한 순간에 스톱, 즉 멈춤을 선언하고 새로운 길을 모색했던 사람들이었다는 겁니다.
역사적으로 그런 사례들이 있었나요?
네. 자료는 몇 가지 좀 인상적인 사례들을 언급하는데요. 예를 들어서 1930년대 대공황이라는 거대한 경제 시스템의 붕괴 이후에 많은 지역에서는 중앙 집중적인 금융 시스템에 의존하지 않는 다양한 형태의 공동체 기반 화폐라던가 협동조합 같은 대안 경제 운동들이 아주 활발하게 일어났습니다. 1970년대 석유 파동으로 에너지 위기를 겪으면서는 거대 에너지 기업에 의존하지 않는 지역 기반의 어떤 탈중앙화된 태양광이나 풍력에너지 협동조합들이 생겨나기 시작했고요. 비교적 최근인 2020년 팬데믹 상황 속에서도 우리는 전 세계적으로 지역 내 물품 교환 네트워크, LENS라고 하죠. 나 서로 돌봄을 실천하는 다양한 소셜 커뮤니티들이 확산되는 것을 목격했습니다. 이런 사례들은 모두 기존 시스템이 위기에 처했을 때 잠시 멈춰 서서 다른 방식을 상상하고 실천했던 사람들의 노력이 있었기에 가능했다는 거죠. 그래서 자료는 이렇게 힘주어 말합니다. 문명은 고를 누른 자들이 쌓아 올린 것이 아니라 때로는 과감히 스텝을 누르고 새로운 길을 낸 자들이 만들어 온 것이다.
듣고 보니 멈춤이라는 것이 단순히 그냥 수동적인 행위가 아니라 새로운 시작을 위한 굉장히 창조적인 행위일 수도 있겠다, 이런 생각이 드네요.
바로 그렇습니다. 그래서 자료는 마지막으로 청취자 여러분께 아주 구체적인 행동 루틴 3가지를 제안하면서 직접 말을 건넵니다. 어쩌면 오늘부터 당장 시도해볼 수 있는 작은 실천들일 수도 있어요. 첫째, 매일 우리가 무언가를 소비하거나 구매하기로 결정할 때마다 스스로에게 이 질문을 던져보라는 겁니다. 나의 이 선택이 기존의 거대한 시스템 구조를 더 단단하게 만드는 데 기여하는가? 아니면 그 구조에서 벗어나 새로운 대안을 만드는 작은 씨앗이 될 수 있는가?
네, 생각해 볼 만한 질문이네요.
뭔가 큰 지출을 하고 싶을 때 즉시 결제 버튼을 누르지 않고 딱 48시간만 구매 결정을 미루어 보는 거죠. 그 시간 동안 이것이 정말 나에게 필요한가? 혹시 다른 대안은 없을까? 하고 잠시 멈춰 생각해 보는 겁니다. 생각보다 많은 불필요한 고우 버튼 누르기를 막을 수 있을 거라고 해요. 셋째, 혼자서는 어렵습니다. 이러한 문제의식을 공유하는 다른 사람들과 연결되고 연대해서 기존의 돈과 시장 중심의 틀에서 벗어난 작고 소박한 탈구조적 경제 실험들을 함께 시작해보라는 겁니다. 뭐 거창할 필요는 없고요. 동네 사람들과 텃밭을 가꾸내서 농작물을 나누거나 재능을 교환하는 모임을 만드는 것부터 시작할 수 있겠죠. 자료는 이렇게 격려합니다. 당신의 아주 작은 멈춤 하나하나가 세상을 지배하는 거대한 관성의 흐름에 미세한 균열을 낼 수 있고 바로 그 멈춤과 성찰의 순간에서 새로운 질서의 가능성이 움틀 수 있다고요.
오늘 저희는 고우 버튼 사회, 침몰과 새로운 질서라는 자료를 통해서 우리를 끊임없이 고 버튼으로 내모는 그 충격적인 현실을 목격하는 것에서 시작했죠. 그리고 그 이면에 숨겨진 우리의 심리적 함정, 또 거대한 시스템의 구조를 분석해보고 마침내 스탑 버튼에 담긴 의외의 힘과 가능성까지 탐색해보는 그런 의미 있는 여정을 함께했습니다. 자료의 마지막 문장이 오랫동안 귓가에 좀 맴도네요. 거대한 자본 시스템은 당신에게 끊임없이 속삭인다. 멈추지 마라. 계속 가라. 더 많이 원하고 더 많이 빌려라. 그러나 당신 안의 진실한 목소리는 조용히 말한다. 이제 멈춰라. 다른 길을 보라. 그리고 네 삶의 새로운 질서를 세워라.
네, 오늘 논의의 핵심은 결국 현상의 표면 너머에 있는 본질을 파악하고 그 작동 원리, 즉 구조를 이해하는 것이었습니다. 그래야만 눈앞의 문제에 일희일비하면서 끌려다니는 대신에 근본적인 변화를 위한 주체적인 선택을 할 수 있으니까요. 그래서 마지막으로 청취자 여러분께 이 질문을 던져드리면서 마무리하고 싶습니다. 자료의 행동 촉구를 조금 비틀어서요. 이 시스템의 본질과 그것이 우리의 욕망과 선택에 어떻게 영향을 미치는지 조금이나마 알게 된 지금, 청취자 여러분의 다음번 선택은 무엇이 될 것 같나요? 여전히 익숙하고 편안한 고우 버튼을 습관적으로 누르시겠습니까? 아니면 잠시 용기를 내어 멈춤 버튼을 누르고 주변을 둘러보며 다른 길은 없는지 스스로에게 질문해 보시겠습니까? 이 질문에 대한 정답은 없습니다. 다만 오늘 저희와의 대화가 청취자 여러분 각자의 삶 속에서 그 답을 찾아가는 작은 성찰의 계기가 되었기를 진심으로 바랍니다.